This is the OnePlus 13R Disassembly. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell so you'll be notified once I upload a new video. Also, if you need any tools, there are links in the description. We'll need to start off by removing the SIM tray. Taking a look at the SIM tray, we can see a black rubber gasket around the opening. At this point, heat needs to be applied to the back plate using either a hairdryer or a heat gun to loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then a pry tool can be used to pry it off. I prefer to use a hairdryer since there's less of a chance of damaging any of the components inside by overheating them. Here's a better look at the glass backplate. The glass camera lens cover can be replaced by applying heat and prying it off, so you don't need to take apart the phone to replace that. But if you do plan on replacing the entire camera bezel, there are 4 Phillips screws on the back which also need to be removed. We also see 4 gold contacts, which are the contacts for the antenna assembly, which is built into the camera bezel. Now there are 18 Phillips screws which need to be removed. Taking a look at the top plastic cover, we see the NFC antenna, another antenna flex cable over here, as well as this flex cable which is for the LED flash and back ambient light sensor. It looks like they may have also planned to have another rear microphone located over here. However, they may have changed their minds at the last minute, since this location is where the back microphone would go. And looking at the frame for the camera bezel, we can see a hole over here, which corresponds to where the microphone would sit. Taking a look at the other side, we can see an area of graphite film to help transfer heat. The battery cable can now be disconnected, followed by the rest of the cables. To pry off and remove the battery, there is a pull pouch provided to help you pry it off. This is the 6000 mAh battery. This is the bottom speaker assembly. This flex cable connects the main board to the subboard. As for the coaxial cables, those can be disconnected by just popping them off. There's a single Phillips screw which is holding down the main board. Taking a look at the main board, we see the 50 megapixel primary camera, the 50 megapixel telephoto lens, as well as an 8 megapixel ultra-wide lens. The main camera is the only camera with OIS or optical image stabilization. The camera cables can be disconnected by just popping them off. As for the main camera, this metal shield or cover will first need to be removed. There's a secondary microphone on the top corner, copper tape or film over the shield to help transfer heat, as well as rubber gaskets around the connectors. Taking a look at the other side, we can see the 16 megapixel front-facing camera, the infrared or IR blaster, copper tape and graphite film, as well as thermal paste to help transfer heat. Once the graphite film has been peeled back, we see additional thermal paste on top of the RAM, which is seated over the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. There are also thermal pads over these chips, and the ROM or onboard storage is located underneath this covered shield. So once the motherboard and battery have been removed, we got a better look at the large copper vapor chamber, which runs underneath the battery, as well as the motherboard. Looking at the subboard, we can see the two primary microphones or bottom microphones, which are located underneath the covered shields. Again, having two microphones on the bottom is becoming a norm on the higher end or flagship phones. There are rubber gaskets around the connectors, and there's a rubber gasket around the charger port itself. The SIM reader is located on the other side. Once the subboard has been removed, you'll have access to removing the red rubber gasket by the screen cable. So if you needed to replace the screen, you'd have to remove the back plate, the bottom screws in the speaker assembly, you'd then have to remove the subboard, and then remove that red rubber gasket, at which point you'd have to heat up the front of the phone where the screen is to loosen up the adhesive underneath, pry the old screen off, apply new adhesive, and reapply the new screen, making sure you run the flex cable back to the opening in the midframe, and reassemble the phone. You don't need to remove the main board or additional parts to replace the screen. The haptic or vibrator motor is located over here, which is held on with some adhesive, and the same goes for the fingerprint scanner located next to that. So if you want to replace those, just apply some heat and gently pry them off. For anyone worried about accidentally inserting the SIM ejector tool in the wrong hole, on this one you don't need to worry since both the microphones as well as the filters are seated above the hole, so they won't get damaged. This is the flex cable for the power button, and this one is for the volume keys. To replace those, these black plastic brackets inside of the frame need to be pulled out, and then those flex cables can be peeled off. Once those black plastic brackets have been pulled out of the frame, the buttons can also be removed by pulling them out. The proximity and ambient light sensor board is located on top, which is held on with some adhesive, and the same goes for the earpiece speaker located next to that. For the repairability score on this phone, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Now it's time to put the phone back together. Once everything's back in place, apply new adhesive and reapply the back cover. Flip over the phone, power it on, and you're done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.